journey into finding out all of the interesting and challenging and hopefully encouraging things that are happening around the world as people are dealing with this COVID-19 crisis. So I'm excited to have Rachael with me today. So I'm going to let Rachael introduce herself, who she is, what she does, and then we'll keep talking.
I am Rachael Postle Brown, and I am an elementary principal in Jenison, Michigan, which is West Michigan. I have a building of preschool through 6th grade in a suburban district that's about medium size. We've got about just over 5,000 students altogether.
So my first question is usually what have been the expectations for you and your staff? So what is the plan as you know it right now moving forward?
So that has been changing kind of hour by hour, day by day. When it first started, it was almost like a snow day where we were just off and admin was, required to work, and trying to figure out then initially were needs for families, like who needed food, who was going to be needing supplies, who wouldn't be able to get out. So we were working really hard on that for the first part. And then when it became evident that we were going to be in this for a long haul, we started switching to how are we going to support learning. And so now we've been working with lots of Zoom meetings and lots of communication via social media and that kind of thing to help get our kids transitioned from what would have been our, brick and mortar school to remote learning plans. And so we in Michigan just yesterday, our governor announced that physical schools would be closed through the end of the year, but that educators were still responsible for educating students remotely, which it's new to everybody. So my teachers have been amazing at jumping in and just saying, what can we do? How do we do it? At first it was kind of chaotic because a lot of people were doing things all on their own. And so families, especially families that had multiple kids, were getting some were getting 10 messages from a teacher, some were getting nothing, some were like, you got to log into Google Classroom and do all this work. So from a family perspective, we really wanted to kind of take that away. And so we have now grade level specific remote learning plans for the week that all of our teachers have had a chance to give input on, and those are what they will be assigning for work. And then they'll be doing some remote learning office hours and some online stuff a couple times a week. But we're trying to be very aware of the fact that the kids are not going to do school as it was, and families are under an extreme amount of stress, and some of our essential workers, some are not. So we just don't want to set up any family for expecting those kids to be on the computer 3 or 4 hours a day. We more want it to be a support and something that's manageable and positive, and not this another thing on their plate when there's so much chaos right now in the world.
So as you're talking about these plans, you said that the governor and the state has said that education will continue. Is that about as specific as it is, and so then it's left up to the district and the schools to figure out to interpret that, or do you have any other sort of strict guidelines as to how the curriculum should or shouldn't be followed, or any other specifics?
In Governor Whitmer's order, she did about a 17-page executive order, but it really wasn't specific on what the expectation and responsibilities would be for districts and for teachers. For districts, we know for our days to be forgiven that we have to continue to pay all of our employees hourly and salaried through the end of the school year. And then if we do that, if we maintain that, then our days would be forgiven. It won't be anything that we have to make up. And otherwise, I just said then too that we're responsible for still educating children. But for what that specific looks like, we don't have anything. There is an expectation that we'll turn in, a district will turn in remote learning plans to our kind of county for them to give us some guidance or oversight. But we're not even required to do that till the end of April. So districts are really kind of on their own trying to figure out how to make this work.
Which is, sort of, well, that's good, but it's also challenging because everybody's trying to figure out the same things. But even your point, and I hadn't thought about that before, about parents with multiple kids, having some consistency or guidelines or protocols that we say, as a school, we communicate X number of times, and all of those things I think are really helpful for the teachers, but also the parents to just have that sense of because they're at this time is particular. There's so many unknowns about
Right.
the virus and what that means. Having some knowns are probably really, really comforting for people. One thing I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I know you have had a lot of experience and have emphasized the whole social emotional learning part of what you do as a school. I know that you've won some awards in that, and that's been a big priority. I'm just going to assume that is still a priority, and you're going to still keep doing that. So how does that principle, that guideline that you have, how is that maintained in this new world?
So I'm pretty blessed to have an amazing team at my building. I've got a school social worker with me full time, my school psychologist, a few special ed teachers who specifically work with emotional needs. And then our district has a parent liaison, and that position is specifically to help meet the needs of parents so that they can support and team with schools for their kids' education. So as soon as we saw that schools were going to be closed, so like I had said, that Thursday night we got the announcement from the governor. So on Friday I'm here greeting my kids, I'm updating that team, and then a district team came together with some outside organizations and met that afternoon and said, okay, how are we going to help families who need food? How are we going to help families who need medical appointments? How are we going to help families who might need some transportation or internet? And started to put together a plan right then. So we really are trying to be as much of a support as we can for families during this time. We still are providing lunch and breakfast. If families can't make it up to like the pickup site for that, we're providing drop-off services. We are staying in contact with our families that we are aware of that have some additional needs on a much more regular basis, and just saying, what is it that we can do to help you with it? Is it, helping them understand how to log into a tele situation for some online counseling? Is it connecting them with other families so that their child has a chance to digitally connect? What might that be? So it's been a whole nother layer to try to balance that. But because we already had some really strong relationships set up, I feel like my building is in a good spot because these families had already trusted us and felt empowered to connect with us.
That's, you're when you speak about that, like, again, I really think, having those structures in place, having those social workers and having these outside agencies that are already on it, you probably could have identified, even before this happened, which families are most vulnerable and which people are going to need the most support. So whereas I think there's other situations, districts where they're finding out who is, and now having to backfill that one. In the same way, I just had a conversation with somebody else about the fact that what their advantage was is they were a one-to-one school. And so they built in a lot of these blended learning experiences. And so that for them was a really easy or relatively easy transition. So everybody's sort of like, I like the idea that people are playing to their strengths and still maintaining who they are and what they're about. So that's awesome that you're doing that. Thinking about moving forward, and this is now going to last until the end of the school year. So, end of May, early June, whenever that will be. What are you thinking about in terms of like, these are going to be the real challenges that I'm concerned about or trying to work my way through? So what are the top of the priority on the challenges?
Obviously just keeping our school community connected, that I feel like is so important. I know that my teachers have been getting online with their classrooms and doing Zoom meetings and that kind of thing. But then that's hard to, I mean, they're connecting within their classroom, but then how do I connect that as a full school community? So just trying to think through those kind of ideas. Trying to keep my staff morale up because they are balancing so much. They're being expected to learn how to online teach and on their own, and lots of them have their own families that they're balancing, and you know, there's so much going on. So that is a goal for me. I have been trying to do like a Thursday night connection with them instead of an actual staff meeting. We actually
Right.
played Name That Tune last night. I got that idea from someone. So
Awesome.
that was good.
Good.
But then also some of those kiddos that we were starting to start plans for how to help them transition into next year. So whether it be check and connect with their next year teacher, or, you know, start to building that plan for that transition, that's all been, that time's been taken away from us physically. So we've got to figure out how to make that happen in our new context, which would be virtually. So we're still kind of trying to process all that, but those are things that are kind of on the top of my list of how do I make this happen so that when we are able to come back to school, we still have a strong school community and our kids are ready for us.
Right. No, for sure. So, and again, I know in your role and what you've said, you talk about how you're, you know, wanting to support your staff and so forth. So my question to you is, what messages or protocols or decisions have been given to you that have really encouraged you? They said, boy, I really appreciate that so-and-so has done this for you.
Well, our superintendent has been very much trying to take it from the lens of a teacher and a family. And so when we discussed from the beginning of, if I'm a family who has 2 or 3 kids and they're in different teachers or in different buildings and they're getting all this information, it is just chaos. So for us to be able to say, okay, we're all going to commit to a common message, a common way to deliver it, that has been really encouraging. You know, it would have been maybe easier to say, like, teachers just do your own thing, here's how to do it, but it definitely has sent a better message from our district and more supportive to families to do it consistently like that. And then also my superintendent did a nice job yesterday of sending a message directly to students. My
That's
daughter,
awesome. That's awesome that she did that. I love that.
um,
Just that there's like a little hand coming behind your shoulder that grabbed that. That's perfect.
still my own
That's
kids at
perfect.
home balancing too.
That's
um,
perfect.
but so he did a video message directed at students yesterday, and he said to them, like, we love you and we miss you and we're here to support you. And I just thought that that was so powerful that he took the time to
Nice.
directly talk to our students.
That's fantastic. And again, paying attention to all of that is and how significant each of those messages are. So now with regard to what your daughter just did there, here's what my question for you is, I know you said, and I get it, you miss being in school, but you're at home now and you've got this whole new thing. So I want you to tell me something that your day has happened in your days at home that you've gone, oh, that's weird that I can do this, or that this happened that obviously wouldn't happen if you were doing your daily job. So what's that sort of thing, that moment that you went, oh, this is kind of nice or interesting or different?
Yeah, so I would say probably 2 things. Our mornings have been much slower, which has been amazing. You know, generally it's like we're on a timer, we got a schedule, we're racing, grabbing breakfast, getting our stuff going. But I can actually get up, like, get the girls up, sit down, have a cup of tea while they're having breakfast, have a conversation that's not surrounded around who needs to be where when, which is, I mean, we haven't had it, we haven't done that since they were really little. And then we're doing afternoon walks with our dog. The other day, my daughter's like, God, I don't think we've done this since I've been in kindergarten, walked with the dog every day. And I thought, oh yeah, the poor dog. Like we haven't. So just those 2, you know, those are kind of highlights in my day right now that are special. And I'm taking advantage of that time with my family.
Good for you. My last question is, and again, we'll kind of end this on another positive note, is, so after all this is done, you know, I think everyone's going to you know, whether it's right away, they're going to reflect on this experience, right? And of course, no one's going to wish it happened, although who knows, it could come back in the fall. But in terms of what are the sort of silver linings of the educational experience between now and the end that you think, or that you hope will come out of this?
I'm hopeful that our parents will feel more connected to our building and more empowered to really understand what their children are learning, like that they feel like they are an essential part. Because I know teachers always feel that, but I think often parents feel like it's not their position, or that they don't understand what's happening in the classroom, so they don't want to take as active of a role. So I'm really hopeful that that will kind of switch this, that they'll feel more empowered and feel like, yeah, I do know what's going on, and I've helped teach my kid for the last 2 months, so I feel like I can kind of jump in and help here. So that would be one thing that I would hope. And then also just that it kind of demonstrates the resilience of our kids and our community. I know lots of people are scared for them, but I really think that they are going to come back to us doing really well and have some adventures to share with us and some learning experiences that they wouldn't have gotten within our building.
Well, it's fantastic, and I'm hopeful that those things will happen. I'm confident they are, just because I know the good work that you've put in place, and now I guess we're testing some of the foundational beliefs that we've always had, and been challenged on some others. So thanks, Rachel, for taking the time to chat, and enjoy if you haven't done your walk with your dog, hope you have a good walk with your dog.
Thank you.
And time with your girls. So thanks so much.
I will see you later, Dean. Hopefully I'll be able to jump in to name that tune next week.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.